It began with a simple question from Elon Musk's son, X, to the legendary Billy Graham, a question that would shake the core of his beliefs forever. "Who is Jesus, really?" X asked, his voice trembling between doubt and hope. Billy Graham smiled gently, his eyes reflecting decades of wisdom and faith. "In Jesus, you find truth, love, and a path to peace," Billy said softly, as if unveiling a sacred secret. X's mind raced. This was no ordinary conversation. It was a moment, poised to redefine his journey. Elon watched silently, knowing his son's questions echoed the deep, restless search inside every human heart. Faith wasn't a word for X. It was a puzzle, complex, confusing, but suddenly deeply personal. Billy's presence was calm, unshakable, a beacon guiding X through the storm of questions and doubts. "Faith is more than belief," Billy whispered. "It's the anchor in life's fiercest storms." And in that still moment, X felt something stir, a whisper of hope, fragile yet fierce. Before we continue, we'd love to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments below, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories. After that conversation, doubt pressed heavier on X's heart than ever before. Faith was a mystery tangled with pain and hope. Why does faith feel so distant? He wondered silently, questioning what seemed so clear to others but remained elusive to him. Billy's words echoed in his mind, yet the darkness inside fought to swallow them whole, leaving only uncertainty behind. He felt alone, a lone traveler in a storm, desperate to grasp something real, something unshakable. Every success, every invention in his father's world seemed powerless against the quiet questions haunting X's soul. Faith wasn't a formula. No algorithm could decode it. It was a leap, a surrender he wasn't ready to make. Yet, in the silence of that night, something fragile began to flicker, a whisper of a promise beyond understanding. The battle between doubt and hope raged inside him, each moment pulling him toward an unseen light. X's journey wasn't about answers, but the courage to ask questions without fear or shame. And in that struggle, a seed of faith was quietly planted, waiting to grow. One night, X lit a candle and stared into its flame, mesmerized by how light could conquer darkness, no matter how small. That simple flame became a symbol, a reminder that faith doesn't require perfection, just persistence. Billy's voice returned to him. "Faith is a light that guides you through your darkest nights." X realized faith wasn't about having all the answers, but trusting enough to keep moving forward. He started seeking moments of grace, brief, unexpected flashes of peace amid chaos. Each moment was a gentle nudge, a soft whisper that life held more meaning than he dared to admit. He remembered the stories of Jesus, not just as history, but as hope alive in the hearts of millions. This light, fragile yet fierce, was growing inside him, urging him to believe, to hope, to trust. The darkness hadn't vanished, but it no longer ruled his world. A new dawn was quietly rising. Faith was no longer a puzzle to solve, but a journey to walk, step by uncertain step. Days later, X found himself under a starlit sky, sitting beside Billy Graham, who spoke with gentle conviction. Billy shared stories of lives transformed, of broken hearts healed by grace and mercy beyond measure. X listened intently, feeling his walls crumble as the truth of those stories touched something deep inside him. He asked Billy, "How can I be sure? How can faith really change a life?" Billy smiled. "Faith is the bridge between what we see and what we hope for, the invisible made real." In that moment, X felt a shift, a stirring inside his heart that words alone couldn't explain. He realized faith was not blind, but illuminated by experience, by trust earned through trials. The night sky stretched endlessly above them, a reminder that faith, like the universe, is vast, and mysterious. For the first time, X embraced the possibility that faith was not a weakness, but his greatest strength. And in that quiet night, a door opened, inviting him into a new way of being. There came a moment when X realized the battle within could only end one way: surrender. Surrender wasn't defeat. It was the bravest act of all, giving his doubts and fears over to something greater. He knelt in quiet prayer, tears flowing, as a peace unlike any before settled over him. In that surrender, he found freedom, a release from the chains of endless questioning. Billy's words echoed gently. Faith begins where control ends. X's heart opened to the love he had heard about, but never truly felt. Pure, unending. Grace. The silence of that room was filled with a powerful stillness, a sacred presence embracing him wholly. He realized faith was not about having everything figured out, but trusting enough to step forward anyway. That moment changed everything. It was the birth of a new life, a new hope. X rose, forever changed, ready to walk a path lit by grace and anchored in faith. Faith, once surrendered to, begins to ripple through every corner of life. X felt this quiet force moving him beyond his doubts. It was like a pebble dropped in still water, small but powerful enough to disrupt the calm and create waves. Suddenly, questions seemed less like obstacles and more like invitations. To grow, to trust, to change. He noticed his heart softening, his mind opening to truths he had resisted for so long. Even in the chaos of his fast-paced world, this new faith settled like a steady anchor beneath him. Every interaction, every challenge, became an opportunity to lean into this growing belief rather than retreat. X realized faith wasn't just for quiet moments. It was meant to ripple through the loudest storms. The ripple effect moved outward, touching relationships, decisions, and even his dreams for the future. What started as a flicker was becoming a steady flame, transforming his perspective in unexpected ways. Faith was no longer a hidden seed. It was growing, visible, and unstoppable. Change demanded courage. X found that embracing faith meant confronting parts of himself he had long ignored. Like a tree in a storm, he was tested, bending but refusing to break under the pressure of transformation. Old habits and doubts fought to hold him back, whispering that faith was too fragile to survive. But with every challenge, X discovered strength he never knew he had, strength born from trust. He learned that faith wasn't a magic shield from pain, but a source of resilience through it. Difficult conversations, painful reflections, and moments of loneliness became stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. X embraced the discomfort, knowing that true change only happens when we face what scares us most. Billy's wisdom echoed. Faith grows strongest where it is tested hardest. Each day, X chose faith over fear, surrender over control, grace over judgment. Through the storms, he stood taller, rooted deeper, transformed. The transformation was not just outward, but deep within X's heart, a renewal that reshaped his very being. He felt compassion replacing judgment, patience replacing impatience, love replacing loneliness. Faith softened the edges of his soul, healing wounds that had long been hidden. It was a quiet revolution, invisible to the world but powerful beyond measure. X began to see others through new eyes, eyes full of grace and understanding. He realized that transformation was less about perfection and more about openness. Each act of kindness, each moment of forgiveness, was a step on this new path. Faith became the lens through which he viewed all things, making even the broken beautiful. This heart transformation was not a destination, but a lifelong journey of grace. And with each day, X embraced the beauty of becoming more fully himself. Prayer became X's refuge, a sacred space where doubts and fears could be laid down. In prayer, he found a dialogue deeper than words, a connection beyond logic. It was in those quiet moments that he felt the presence of something greater than himself. Prayer didn't always bring answers, but it always brought peace, a peace that transcended understanding. X discovered that prayer was not about changing God's mind, but changing his own heart. It was a lifeline, pulling him through storms and reminding him he was never truly alone. Billy had said, "Prayer is faith in motion," and X was beginning to see why. Through prayer, his faith deepened, becoming less abstract and more tangible. It was in these moments that he learned to surrender daily, trusting the journey ahead. Prayer was no longer a ritual, but the breath of his new life. Faith asked X to embrace the unknown, to step beyond certainty into mystery. The future stretched out like an endless horizon, filled with both fear and promise. He learned that embracing uncertainty wasn't weakness, but the bravest act of faith. Each step forward was a choice to trust a path he couldn't fully see. X felt a strange freedom in surrendering control, a freedom to be fully alive. The unknown was no longer a threat, but a sacred invitation to grow. Billy's words rang clear. Faith walks boldly into what cannot be seen. This new courage transformed fear into hope and doubt into discovery. X took a deep breath, knowing that every great journey begins with a single step. And with that step, he embraced the unknown. Ready to live a life defined by faith, X carried the weight of legacy, the towering shadow of his family's fame pressing on his shoulders. Faith began unraveling this burden, teaching him that legacy is more than success. It's the soul we leave behind. He wrestled with expectations, the desire to prove himself, and the need to find his own truth. Billy's gentle words echoed. True legacy is built on faith and love, not fame or fortune. X slowly understood that legacy wasn't a chain, but a choice to live with purpose beyond prestige. This realization shifted something deep inside him, turning pressure into a sacred invitation. He began to see his journey not as a burden, but as a path to leave meaning. Faith was becoming the compass guiding him through the tangled expectations of legacy. The past no longer defined him. Instead, it was a foundation for something new. X was learning that legacy is less about what we inherit and more about what we give. Vulnerability was once his greatest fear, a crack in the armor of success and certainty. But faith revealed vulnerability's true power. It is the gateway to authentic connection and healing. X found courage in admitting his fears, doubts, and the parts of himself still searching. Billy reminded him, strength is not in hiding wounds, but in showing them with grace. Opening his heart wasn't weakness, but a radical act of trust in a higher plan. With vulnerability, X discovered a freedom he had never known, freedom to be imperfect, human. It was here, in the honest cracks, that faith took root most deeply. This new openness allowed healing to begin, relationships to deepen, and hope to flourish. He embraced vulnerability as a brave step, a bridge from isolation to belonging. And with each honest breath, X became more whole, more alive that I in the stillness. X discovered a sacred gift, silence, where faith speaks loudest. The noise of the world faded, revealing a calm deeper than any technology could provide. Billy spoke of silence as a sacred space where God's voice becomes unmistakable. X learned to seek quiet moments, not to escape life, but to find clarity within it. Silence became a refuge, a place to listen without distraction or fear. In those quiet hours, doubts softened and faith grew louder. He realized that sometimes the greatest answers come not from speaking, but from listening. This silence wasn't emptiness. It was fullness, a deep connection with the divine. The gift of silence transformed his restless mind into a peaceful heart. And in that peace, X found strength to face each new day. Forgiveness was the hardest lesson, a release of anger, and pain held too tightly. X wrestled with past hurts, recognizing how bitterness had built walls around his heart. Billy's words pierced through. Forgiveness frees not only the forgiven, but the forgiver. Faith taught him that holding on to hurt only chained him further in darkness. In forgiving, X found unexpected freedom, a lightness of soul he hadn't imagined. It wasn't forgetting or excusing pain, but choosing peace over bitterness. Each act of forgiveness was a step toward healing fractured relationships and healing his own heart. X realized forgiveness was a gift he gave himself, a new way to live. Through this grace, faith blossomed, filling spaces once consumed by resentment. And in forgiveness, he discovered the true power of love. Faith became the light guiding X through the darkest nights of doubt and confusion. Like a lighthouse on a stormy sea, it offered direction when all else felt lost. Billy's voice echoed, "Faith doesn't promise an easy path, but a sure light to follow." X learned to trust that light even when the way was unclear or frightening. Each step forward was less about certainty, more about following the glow of hope. This guiding light transformed fear into trust, hesitation into courage. Faith illuminated his purpose, clarifying who he was meant to be beyond fame or fortune. The journey was no longer about avoiding darkness, but walking confidently toward the light. X realized this light was always within him, a constant presence through every trial. And with that light, he was ready to embrace whatever came next. Faith revealed to X a new calling, a quiet invitation to serve others beyond himself. No longer was his journey about personal success, but about sowing seeds of hope in others' lives. Billy explained, "True greatness is found in humility and service, not status or acclaim." X began to understand that faith asks us to give more than we get. The desire to serve shifted his perspective. Power and fame lost their luster. In serving, X found deeper purpose and unexpected joy. He realized that his influence could be a light to those struggling in the dark. Every small act of kindness became a step toward healing a broken world. This was faith in action, not just belief, but love made visible. And with that, X's heart opened wider than ever before. Faith tested X's patience, demanding trust when answers were delayed and the path unclear. Billy reminded him, "Patience is not passive waiting. It is active hope anchored in God." Days turned to weeks, and weeks to months, but X learned to hold faith steady. He discovered that sometimes growth happens unseen beneath the surface. The test was difficult. Doubt whispered temptations to give up and rush ahead. But faith called him to trust the timing of a greater plan. This patience shaped character stronger than any quick success could. X embraced waiting as a sacred process, refining his spirit like a river-carved stone. He realized that faith's greatest power often unfolds slowly, quietly, persistently. And in this waiting, hope blossomed into resilience. Faith revealed the strength found in community, a family bound not by blood, but by love. X experienced how shared belief creates a support network, lifting each other in struggle. Billy's wisdom resonated. "No one walks this path alone. We rise together." X saw how vulnerability became a bridge, connecting hearts in powerful ways. The community became a refuge, a place of encouragement and healing. Faith knitted strangers into brothers and sisters on a shared journey. X learned that asking for help is a strength, not a weakness. Together, they celebrated small victories and carried one another through dark times. The power of community transformed loneliness into belonging, despair into hope. And in this unity, faith found its most beautiful expression, the most profound. Moment came when X surrendered control, releasing his fears and doubts. Faith invited him to trust completely, even when the path seemed uncertain or steep. Billy's voice lingered. Surrender is not giving up, but giving over to God's grace. In that surrender, X found peace deeper than understanding. He let go of his ego, ambitions, and the need to dictate outcomes. This radical act opened space for divine guidance and transformation. The surrender was not a moment of weakness, but ultimate strength. Faith became a living presence, carrying him when he could no longer carry himself. X realized that surrender unlocked a freedom previously unknown. And in that freedom, he finally understood what it means to truly trust, with faith as his foundation. X stepped into a new beginning, a life transformed. The journey had reshaped him, leaving behind fear, doubt, and emptiness. Billy's parting words echoed in his heart. Every ending is a new beginning in God. X embraced hope, a promise that faith continually renews, no matter the past. He now walked forward with courage, humility, and a heart open to love. The story was not just his, but a message of grace for all who listen. Faith had led him from silence to speechless awe, from wandering to purpose. His life became a living testimony, proof that even the strongest can be humbled and healed. This new chapter was filled with possibility, light, and unshakable trust. And as the sun rose, X knew his journey of faith was just beginning. What did you think of this inspiring story of Elon Musk's son X talking about faith with Billy Graham, leading to a life-changing moment? Where are you watching this video from? We'd love to hear your thoughts and location in the comments below. Please consider subscribing to our channel, liking this video, and sharing it with others to spread the inspiration. Thank you.